In this video, I'm going to be teaching you some of the basic information about layers in Photoshop. So I want to explain to you first what a layer is. Essentially, a layer is another level to the photo that allows you to make individual edits to each level. The reason we want those individual layers and individual levels is so that if we continue editing and maybe realize that we don't like the edits that we made in the future, that we can easily get rid of those edits instead of having to start a picture all the way back over. So let me show you what that means. So first off, if you look over in your panel on the right, this is your layer panel. This is where your layers will be. You always are going to start with the background layer when you open up a JPEG file. So if I have a background layer and let's say I make some adjustments. So let's say I just want to turn up the brightness a little bit and then I go to turn up the saturation and maybe then I kind of question my decision on the brightness. Well, if you do no longer want to see the edit that you made, but you're not quite sure that you want to get rid of it, you can go over to the eyeball next to the layer. And this eyeball indicates the visibility. So if you click on it and it disappears, you can no longer see the edit that's on that layer. So if we turn it back on, now I can see my change to the brightness. And I could do the exact same to set the saturation, and I could even do the same to the background layer, and that would make it go away because I can no longer see the background. So I have my background and I have a couple adjustment layers that pop up when I make my adjustments. So we can turn them on and off if we need to, but we can also create these completely new levels to the picture. So I'm going to show you here, there is a button that has almost looks like a piece of paper with the corner turned up. And I'm going to click on that because that's how I create a new layer. And you can name these layers. It'll pop up as layer 1 for the first one, but I'm going to double click and I'm going to name it demo just so we have that. And you can see that in this box here, it's totally blank. Whereas the background, you can see what's actually going on the screen. That's because the background is the only thing that's actually the only layer that's actually holding this picture. The layer for my demo layer doesn't have anything done to it yet. So it's a completely blank, clear layer on top of the picture we have so far. So let's say I decided I wanted to draw on my picture for one reason or another. I wanted to draw. So I'll grab my brush tool and I've got a nice red brush here. I'm going to make sure I'm on my demo layer. And I'm going to just draw a little bit in here and say, for some reason, I think that looks great. But then maybe I go on and I want to make some more edits later in the future. And then I decide, maybe I don't like the way that that looks on my picture. I can easily delete or turn off the visibility on this layer without it causing any destruction to my picture. So if I just click off here, and you can see what is on my layer now, because you can see the little red blob on there, now it's gone. And everything else that I edited is still there, but it is gone. I can even delete my layer if I want. So to delete a layer, I can, as long as you clicked on your layer, you can either right click and click delete layer, or you can be highlighted and there's a little trash can down in the bottom right corner that allows you to delete the layer. So if I click on that, it's going to be sure that I'm sure, and it'll go away. Everything I just had there completely went away. So what would happen if I didn't do those edits on that layer? Now, let's say, again, I want to draw and I didn't make a new layer and I'm on my background layer. And I make my nice little red blob in the sky and I say, okay, that looks good. And then maybe I go on to do some more edits. I go on to do some cropping and I want to do a little blur tool on here, which isn't doing much right now or anything, but just for the sake of adding more edits. And then all of a sudden I've changed my mind about the red blob. Well, if I go to edit and I do undo, I can undo my blur tool, no problem. And then if I go back to keep undoing, that's not an option. I've got a redo the blur tool button because they want you to only undo and redo the steps that you have done previously. So now you have this red spot on your picture that it's there and it's not really going to go away and you can't really get rid of it. unless you completely start over. And if you're really far into a picture, that can cause a lot of problems. That's going to be very time consuming for you. So you always want to make sure you create a layer when you are making edits, especially edits that are over here. These adjustments will always make a new layer for themselves. So that will not be destructive for you. But over here especially, always create a new layer just in case. Now, if you for some reason need to duplicate a layer and make a copy, that's always an option. So if I were to right click on my layer here and I click duplicate layer, it's going to ask me if I want to name it. I'm just going to save it as that. And it is done, and I have 2 copies of that. You can also group your layers together. So if you want to keep yourself organized, down in this little file folder, this is for grouping. So if I click on create a new group, it's going to pop up a group here. Now, maybe you want to keep all the edits that have to do with light in one group and all the ones that have to do more with the tone of the color in another group. However you're wanting to organize it, you can drag them into that group and keep them all together. So if I click on my adjustment and I can see where it highlights blue, drop it into the group, and now this is within a group within itself. So I can open and close it so it is there for me to view. Because sometimes you get a lot of edits that happen and it just gets to be a complete mess. So keeping this organized with the file folder is definitely a nice thing to have sometimes. So now you should know what a layer is, why they are so important, how we can turn on and off their visibility, creating and duplicating them, grouping them, and able to delete them if necessary. So hopefully that's some good basic information that can help you work your way up to using some of our more complicated tools that we have over on this end. But these basics should definitely help you get a good start.